Hello and welcome everyone to the Conquering FreeCodeCamp Curriculum Challenge. Oh boy, that's a long name. How is everybody? I'm pretty excited for this new challenge and a little nervous at the same time. But it should be a lot of fun. In today's episode, we're going to learn HTML and HTML5 on the FreeCodeCamp platform. If you want to follow along, which I highly suggest, you can go to freecodecamp.org/learn. And also, it might be a good idea for you to do it on your own and then maybe come back and watch me do it. So basically, this way you can get your hands dirty and you can learn the most out of it. But in the meantime, let's see who joined the chat. Hello everyone, Jessica, Jenna, Liran, everyone who joined, good. In this episode we are going to have 28 lessons. I'm planning on covering all the HTML and HTML5 basic section, which is part of the responsive web design certification. They say it should take 300 hours, but maybe we can do it faster. Okay, then tomorrow we're going to look into basic CSS, which should also be fun. I'm going to read, there's a lot of explanation also, so I'm going to kind of mix it up, so maybe read it all or for some sections and for others no. I'm going to also give you my input on what these elements should do and when will you use it and stuff like that. So yeah, I haven't gone through this section yet because I wanted to keep it like in the first time I say it, although I completed it 2 years or 3 years ago. In the last live stream I resetted my progress and they might have added something new in the meantime. I'm not 100% sure. So basically this should be beginner friendly. Hello for everyone who joined in the meantime. And I think we can get started. Okay, so basic HTML and HTML5. First of all, let me know if the text is big enough for you. It's at 130%. You should see it fine if you have it on full screen. I wouldn't want to zoom in even more because it might be disruptive when we get to decoding and live preview also, but okay, let's see. So HTML, or hypertext markup language, is a markup language used to describe the structure of a web page. I usually call it like the bones in a human body because all the websites are built with HTML and then you wrap it. So basically that's the bones, and then you add CSS to add the styling of the page, so that's the skin and all that, and later you can add JavaScript to make it functional. So HTML, think of it like being the bones of the bare bones of a website. And we have here an example. There are different tags in HTML. We're going to cover all of them, or at least the most important ones, in this episode of the challenge. Here we have an H1, which is a heading, a top level heading. There are 6 of them, but I guess we'll cover that too. We have a paragraph, and here we have a list, an ordinate list with 3 list items. So basically this code translates to what you can see here. Alright, let's see. Hypertext part of HTML comes from the early days of the web, and it's Original use case. Pages usually contain static documents that contain references to other documents. These references contained hypertext links used by the browser to navigate to the reference document, so the user could read the reference document without having to manually search for it. Okay. As the web page and web application grew more complex, the W3 consortium updates the HTML specification to ensure that the web page can be shown reliably on any browser. The latest version is HTML5. Alright, so that's pretty much the introduction. So let's go to our first lesson. Okay, so you can see here, this is basically how the FreeCodeCamp is constructed. On the left you have the description, here on the middle you can write the text, the code, and then on the right you can see it live. Okay, the first lesson is say hello to HTML elements. Welcome to the FreeCodeCamp HTML Coding Challenge. This will walk you through web development step by step. First, you'll start by building a simple web page using HTML. You can edit code in the code editor, so here we can write code, which is embedded into the web page. Do you see the code editor? The code in the code editor that says hello? Yes, I can see it. Good, that's an HTML element. Most HTML elements have an opening tag and a closing tag. So this is an opening tag and a closing tag with a /. Each challenge has tests. You can run at any time by clicking the Run Tests button. When you pass all tests, you will be prompted to submit your solution and go to the next coding challenge. Alright, so the first one, to pass the test on this challenge, change your h1 elements text to say hello world. So as you can see now it says hello, and we need to add here world. If we run the test, look at that, we finished our first challenge. Awesome, submit and go to the next one. Good. Headline with the h2 element. Over the next few lessons, we'll build an HTML5 cat photo web app, piece by piece. The h2 element we'll be adding in this step will add a level 2 heading to the web page. Okay, and there are a total of 6 headings, which basically indicate different levels of subheadings, so h1 to h6. Okay. Let's see, add an h2 tag that says copy photo app to create a second HTML element below your hello world. Alright, so h2, and here we can say cat photo app h2. Yeah, it will run automatically, run the tests. Hooray! One more down. Awesome. Good, inform with the paragraph element. P elements are the preferred element for paragraph text on website. P is short for paragraph. You can create a paragraph element like this. Awesome. Good, create a P element below your h2 element and give it the text hello paragraph. Alright, so that's pretty simple, right? Good, and we can space it out so it will be cleaner. Run the tests. Look at that, it works. Alright, this is pretty fun and easy at the same time. Good, let's see what we have next. Fill in the blank with placeholder text. Ooh. Web developers traditionally use lorem ipsum text as a placeholder text. The lorem ipsum text is randomly scraped from a famous passage by Cicero of ancient Rome. That's neat. Lorem ipsum text has been used as a placeholder text by typesetters since the 16th century. Oh, look at that, I'm learning something new today. And this tradition continues on the web. Well, 5 centuries is long enough. Since we're building a cat photo app, let's use something called kitty ipsum text. That's nice. Replace the text inside your P element with the first few words of this kitty ipsum text. The first few, like that many? Let's see, run the test. Oh, look at that. Awesome. Good, good, good. Ooh, look at that, they commented our code. Good. Uncomment HTML. Commenting is a way that you can leave comments for other developers or for you in the future within your code without affecting the resulting output that is displayed to the end user. Commenting is also a convenient way to make code inactive without having to delete it entirely. Yep, that's right. Comments in HTML start with this lower, what's that? Lower sign, an exclamation point and double minuses, and end with double minuses and a greater sign. Oh, that was hard to explain. Okay, uncomment your h1, h2 and p elements. So basically we need to delete these. And you can see now that the text appeared again. Okay, let's run a test. Yay! Oh, we're already 80% complete. And only 10 minutes passed. That's nice. Good. Comment out HTML. Remember that in order to start a comment you need to use this, and then at the end you need this. Here you'll need to end the comment before your h2 element begins. Comment out your h1 element and your p element, but not your h2. Okay, so basically we want to comment out the h1 and we want to comment out the p tag. So we have an opening and closing around the p tag and around the h1 element. Run tests and it's completed. Good. Delete HTML elements. Ooh, let's see. Our phone doesn't have much vertical space. Let's remove the unnecessary elements so we can start building our cat photo app. Delete your h1 element so we can simplify our view. Alright, so this one. Okay, so we get rid of hello world. Perfect. Now we are a quarter away. That's nice. Ooh, nice. HTML5 elements. These are fun. Alright. HTML5 introduces more descriptive HTML tags. These include main, header, footer, nav, video, article, section, and a couple of others. Yup, and I highly suggest you to use them. These tags give a descriptive structure to your HTML, make your HTML easier to read, and help with search engine optimization or SEO. If you're having a blog or a website and you want to rank on Google, you might want to take care of this. And also accessibility. The main HTML5 tag helps search engine and other developers find the main content of your page. Example usage: a main element with two child elements nested inside it. Okay, so you can see here it's the main tag, it's wrapping the other two tags. Note, many of the new HTML5 tags and their benefits are covered in the applied accessibility section. Okay, so we're going to focus on that later. Good. Let's see. Create a second p element after the existing p element with the following kitty lorem ipsum text or whatever. So let's copy this. And let's see. Then create a main element and nest the two p elements inside the main element. Okay, so we need to create another p tag. And we want to wrap it around the main tag. Main. Okay, and let's indent it. Indented. Oh, that's a funny word. But you can see. We basically give it a tab so it goes a little to the right. So it's much more visible that this main tag is wrapping the inner tags. Let's run the tests, and it's completed. Perfect. Hello to everyone who joined in the meantime. I won't focus very much on the chat, so if something is wrong, you can spam the chat or let me know. But other than that, I'm going to focus to finish the challenge. Okay. Good. The next one, add images to your website. Cool. Now something visual. You can add images to your website by using the img element and point to a specific URL by using the source attribute. Okay, so we're learning a new tag and an attribute. And here's an example. So we have image, and inside the tag you can see here we have the source and we say the URL of the image. Note that the image elements are self-enclosing, so we don't have an opening and a closing tag. All image elements must have an alt attribute. The text inside the alt attribute is used for screen readers to improve accessibility and is displayed if the image fails to load. Okay, if the image is purely decorative, using an empty alt attribute is best practice. Okay, ideally the alt attribute should not contain special characters unless needed. Let's add alt attribute to our image example above. Okay, so along with the source attribute, there is an alt attribute now. Let's try to add an image to our website within the existing main element. So this one, insert an image element before the existing P elements. Okay, so here they apparently give us some space. There. Okay, now set the source attribute so that it points to this URL. Alright, let's use it. So image, and the source should be this URL. Look at that, we have a pretty kitty appearing there. Finally, don't forget to give your image element an alt attribute. Alt, whatever. And it should say, let's see, kitty. Perfect. So basically, if the image won't work, you can see that there is this icon of a failed image and the kitty word next to it. So what we put here in the alt. So that's why we need to use the alt attribute. Run the test. Alright. Let's move to the other one. Link to external page with anchor elements. Alright, so that's interesting now. You can use an anchor or an A tag to link to content outside of your web page. Anchor elements need a destination web address called an href attribute. They also need anchor text. Here is an example. So we have the A tag with the href attribute, which specifies the link, and inside the tag, the opening and the closing tags here, we have the text we want the link to say. Okay, then your browser will display the text. This links to freeCodeCamp.org. As a link you can click. Alright. Good. Create an age element that links to freecatphotoapp.com and has cat photos as its anchor text. Alright, and I think we need to add it here. So a href, and we need this link. Alright, we close it, and also we close the closing tag. And here we can say cat photos. Good. Now if we would click this, site not found. That's interesting. Alright, run the tests. Perfect. Next one. Alright, ask me later to donate. Good. Link to internal section of a page with anchor elements. Alright, so basically we can use the A tag to give it an anchor. For the href property, we can give an ID of an element on the page. Let's see. To create an internal link, you can assign a link href attribute to a hash symbol. So the hashtag here plus the value of the ID attribute for the element that you want to internally link to. Alright. An ID is an attribute that uniquely describes an element. So basically you can have an ID on any element on the website, but it has to be unique. As you can see here, the h2 has an ID of contacts header, and then you can add the what's this called, the hash, the hash symbol followed by the ID, and when you're going to click the link, it will jump to this section. Okay, so yeah, what I said, when user clicks the contact link, they'll be given to the section of the web page with the contacts header element. Okay, let's see what we have to do for this challenge. Change your external link to an internal link by changing the href attribute to footer. Okay, so we change this to footer ID. Alright. And the text from cat photos to jump to bottom. Jump to bottom. Alright. Remove the target blank attribute from your anchor tag, since that causes the link document open in a new window. Well, we don't have. Oh, yes we do. Look at that. So they added the target blank. So basically this, what this does is when you have a link on your website and you want that link to open in a new tab, you will add this property target, this attribute target with the property of blank or value. Okay, so let's delete that. Good. Then add an ID attribute with the value of footer to the footer. So they apparently added the footer here, copyright cat photo app, and we need to give it an ID of footer like that. So now if we click the jump to bottom, look at that. It will jump to the bottom, which is the footer. Alright, run the tests. Perfect. Okay, let's see. Nest an anchor element within a paragraph. You can nest links within other text elements. So here we have an example of the p tag, and here's a link. Okay. Good. Let's break down the example. Normal text is wrapped in the p element. So we have here an example. Next is an anchor element, which requires a closing a tag. Target is an anchor tag attribute that specifies where to open the link. Okay, and we give the href to open to the link. Blah blah blah. Okay, the final output of the example will look like this. So basically, this is the entire paragraph, and inside it we want to have a link. Alright. Now, nesting the existing A element within a P element, just after the existing main element. So this one. The new paragraph should have the text that says view more cat photos, where cat photos is a link, and the rest is the plain text. Okay, so we open and close the P tag here around the A tag. And we're going to say view more, and it already says cat photos because we had this before. So now you have a text and a link inside. Awesome. Run the tests. Perfect. We're almost halfway there. Make dead links using the hash symbol. Okay. Sometimes you want to add elements to your website before you know where they will link. That's interesting. This is also handy when you're changing the behavior of a link using JavaScript, which we'll learn about later. This is like a spoiler alert. The current value of the href attribute is a link that points to freecatphotoapp.com. Replace the href attribute with a hash symbol, and also known as hash symbol, to create a dead link. For example, href is hashed. So we have this, and we want this to be like that. This is usually used when you want to have a link on the page, but you don't want it to link anywhere. You just want it to trigger something like a model, or basically you'll use this as a button on the page. So you want to trigger an event or something. But we're going to learn more about it in the JavaScript section. All right. All good so far, chat? Is this, at the moment, HTML maybe most of you are familiar with, so it's not something new, but we're going to get to the harder parts also in the future. Good. Let's go to the next one. Turn an image into a link. So that's something we can do. You can make elements into links by nesting them within an A element. So you can see here an example. We have the image, which has the source of the image and the alt tag, and it's wrapped inside an A tag. Okay, remember to use, I keep forgetting this, is a hash symbol, okay, as your A tag. href property in order to turn it into a dead link. Alright. Place the existing image element within an A or an anchor element. Once you've done this, hover over your image with your cursor. Your cursor normal pointer should become the link clicking pointer. So as you can see now, if we hover over an A tag, it will change our cursor from the normal one to the pointer one, but it's not the same for the image because the image is not clickable. So we want to have an A tag with a href of the hash symbol. Let's close the tag and indent this. Oops, give it a tab like that. And now look at that. When we hover over the image, it changes the pointer. The pointer, the cursor. Okay, not the pointer. Changes the cursor to pointer. Alright. Next. Alright, look at that. We're 50% complete in 28 minutes. Oh, that went fast. Okay. Create a bulleted unordered list. Alright, so we're with lists now. HTML has a special element for creating unordered lists or bullet point styled lists. Unordered lists start with an opening UL element followed by any number of li elements. Finally, unordered lists close with an UL tag. So basically we have the opening tag, the closing tag, and inside here we have as many li tags we want. Okay, remove the last two the elements and create an unordered list of 3 things that cats love at the bottom of the page. Okay, what do cats love? So we have an UL, opening and closing, and here we're going to have the LIs. Let's copy it and paste it here. Good. So what do cats love? Milk, playing, and biting. At least mine does. Okay, run the tests. Perfect. Next one. Things cats love: catnip, laser pointers, lasagna. That's one. Okay. Create an ordered list. List, singular. HTML has another special element for creating ordered lists. English. Or numbered lists. Ordered lists start with an opening OL. So when we have unordered list is UL, and when it's ordered is OL. Followed by any number of li elements. So basically it's the same, just change the UL to OL. Okay. Create an ordered list of the top 3 things cats hate the most. Okay, cats hate. What do they hate? Water. And maybe dogs. And I don't know. Cars. Because, oh, well, why not? Okay, oh, I forgot to explain. Good. So basically, you can see now that with the UL, we have the dot lists, but when we change it to OL, we have 1, 2, 3. And if we would have to add, I don't know how many more, it will automatically add the numbers. Yeah. So as Wizzy said, they hate cucumber. Okay, run the tests. Perfect. Create a text field. Now let's create a web form. Input elements are a convenient way to get input from the user. You can create a text input like this. Also, like the image tag, the input tag is a self-closing tag. Create an input element of the type text below your lists. Also, as a spoiler alert, the input tag have multiple types. So for now we have input of type text. So this is used to gather text from the user. And you can see now this input appearing, and we can type inside it, which is cool. Alright, next one. Add a placeholder text to a text field. Placeholder text is what is displayed on your input element before your user has inputted anything. You can create placeholder text like so. So we have the input tag, the type of it, and then we have a placeholder attribute. And inside it, you can write whatever you want to be displayed before the user enters something. Note, remember that input elements are self-closing. Okay. Set the placeholder value of your text input to cat photo URL. Alright, let's see. Placeholder will be cat photo URL. And look at that, now this faded text appeared on top of the input. But if we click and write something, it will disappear. And it will stay like that until we delete it. Run the tests. Perfect, submit and go to the next challenge. Create a form element. You can build web forms that actually submit data to a server using nothing more than pure HTML. You can do this by specifying an action on your form element. For example, form action, and we have the URL. Nest your text field inside the form element, and add the action submit cat photo attribute to the form element. Alright, so around the input, form and form, like that. Let's nest this, and we have the action be submit cat photo, like that. Right, so basically now if we would have a submit button, I think we need, then this form will be submitted to this link, so the data will be passed to that link. Alright, next one. Add the submit button to a form. Yeah, so basically what I said before. Let's add the submit button to your form. Clicking this button will send the data from your form to the URL you specified with your form's action attribute. Here's an example of a submit button. So we have a button tag now, which has a type of submit. Also, the input could be a type of submit, and it will act the same as a button. Alright, let's see what we have to do. Add a button as the last element of your form element with a type of submit, and submit as its text. Okay, so under the input we have button. Let's close it. Inside it we're going to have a text of submit, and we have a type of submit, like that. So now if we click this button, it should submit of the form. Yeah, they probably have a way around. Maybe they added a prevent default on the form or something. But usually when you click a button of a type submit inside the form, it will submit it, and you can see that the page reloads or goes to a link or something. Good, 71% completed. Let's see, use HTML5 to require a field. Okay, this one is a good one. You can require specific form fields so that the user will not be able to submit your form until he or she has filled them out. For example, if you want to make a text input field required, you can just add the attribute required within your input element, like this. Yeah, so this usually goes to the inputs, like if you have a form, you want the user to enter an email and a password or something, and you want them to make sure that they add something in those fields, you add the required property or attribute. Alright, let's see, make your text input the required field so that your user can submit the form without completing this field. Then try to submit the form without inputting any text. See how your HTML5 form notifies you that the field is required. Okay, let's see. So now we can pretty much submit it. But if we go to the input and add required, now look at that. So we have a message appearing, please fill in this field. And if we fill in the field, then we can submit it. Perfect. Let's go to the next one. Okay, create a set of radio buttons. Nice. You can use radio buttons for questions where you want the user to only give you one answer out of multiple options. Radio buttons are a type of input. So as I said before, there are multiple types for the input. Each of your radio buttons can be nested within its own label. By wrapping an input element inside of a label element, it will automatically associate the radio button input with the label element surrounding it. So basically the label is used to give your radio button a name, or so a text near it. Because if you're going to see on a web page 3 radio buttons or 3 circles, and it won't be very I mean, how would you know what they mean, right? So next to each other, I mean, next to them, it must have a text, so you know that you want to select one of the other. All right. Yeah, here is an example of a radio button. So we have the label, and inside it we have the input of type radio and the name indoor, outdoor. The name attribute is required. So you can see here all related radio buttons should have the same name attribute. So basically, if you have multiple radio type inputs, you want them to have the same name so that the website knows that they are on the same type. Okay. By creating a radio group, selecting any single radio button will automatically deselect the other buttons within the same group, ensuring only one answer is provided by the user. Here's an example. Okay, so we saw it. It is considered best practice to set a for attribute on the label with a value that matches the value of the ID of the input. Alright. Yeah, this is also used, so even if the input is not inside the label, if you give a for attribute on the label, it will know that it's related to that input. Okay, let's see our challenge. Add a pair of radio buttons to your form, each nested in its own label. Okay, one should have the option of indoor and the other should have the option of outdoor. Both should share the name attribute of indoor-outdoor to create a radio group. Okay, let's copy this because it's easier, and we can place it here above the button. And let's indent it. Okay, so we have the label for indoor, which is a type of radio, and it has the name indoor-outdoor, and it says indoor. Good. And then we need the other one to say outdoor. Wherever it says indoor, it should say outdoor, like that. Good. Indoor, outdoor. And you can see now that if we click on one of them, it will be active and it will deactivate the other one. Alright, good. Run the tests. 79% completed. Perfect. Good. Create a set of checkboxes. So yeah, basically the main difference between the radio and checkboxes is that on radios you can only have one active at a time, while on checkboxes you can have multiple checked. Okay, let's see what they say here. Forms commonly use checkboxes for questions that may have more than one answer. Okay, checkboxes are a type of input. The same as the radio, it's nested inside the label. All related checkboxes input should have the same name attribute. Okay, it is considered best practice to explicitly define the relationship between a checkbox and its the corresponding label by setting the for attribute. So basically the same as above. Add to your form a set of 3 checkboxes. Each checkbox should be nested within its own label. All 3 should share the name attribute of personality. Alright, so let's copy this code. And again, above the button maybe, let's paste it in 3 times. Personality. What personality should our cat have? Loving is the first one. Playful, is that a thing? Let's do it anyway. Playful, and then I don't know. Hungry. Oops, it should be lowercase. Hungry, like that. Alright, I guess that's a personality nowadays. Good, so now you can see Let's see, there is an enter here somewhere. Input label, playful. Oh, they added it above. Okay, so let's put these three above. Oh, and there is a break row. That's what it stands for, right? Break. Or just break? I forgot. So basically, if we add the three labels here, you can see now that the radio button will only be active one, while the checkbox can be at the same time all of them active or checked. Okay, run the tests. 82%, perfect. How far? 46 minutes, that's insane. Good. It's faster than I thought. Use the value attribute with radio buttons and checkboxes. Okay, let's see. When a form gets submitted, the data is sent to the server and includes entries for the options selected. Inputs of type radio and checkbox report their values from the value attribute. For example, we have the first label and the input, and it says value indoor. So if this one is selected and we're clicking the submit button, the value for the indoor outdoor, because that's the name of our radio group, will be indoor. If this one is selected, obviously it will be outdoor. If you omit the value attribute, the submitted form data uses the default value, which is on. In this scenario, if the user clicked the indoor option and submitted the form, the resulting form data would be indoor, outdoor, on. Interesting. Which is not useful. So the value attribute needs to be set to something to identify the option. Give each of the radio and checkbox inputs the value attribute. Use the input label text in lowercase as the value for the attribute. Okay. Yeah, this is something you would usually do. I still don't like the fact that here is not a space, so you can see clearly that these are the radio buttons, inputs, and these are the checkboxes. Alright, so we need to add, we have the type and the name, and let's add the value. For this one it will be indoor, and the value for this one will be outdoor. Here we're going to have a value of loving, lazy, and energetic. Okay, those are much better. Lazy and energetic. Good. So basically this property won't do much for our front end, so we can't see it here. But when we submit the form, you will be able to see it on the server side. Alright, good, we are pretty close. Check radio buttons and checkboxes by default. You can set a checkbox or radio button to be checked by default using the checked attribute. To do this, just add the word checked to the inside of an input element. Alright, so if by default you want the input to be checked, you will give this attribute of checked. This is used when you want to create an account and they will ask you, do you want to receive emails from us? And they will do the input to be checked by default. Yeah, that's a hacky thing. Okay, set the first of your radio buttons and the first of your checkboxes to both be checked by default. Okay, let me clean this up a little bit. So the first radio will be checked, and also the first checkbox. Look at that. So you can see by default it checks that one. Good. Run the tests. Complete. I think we only have a couple more. Nest many elements within a single div element. Alright, so we arrived to the div element, which is probably the most used element on web pages. Basically, when you don't know, although you should, or when you don't have like an exact tag to use to wrap your content, you will put it inside the div. But you should try avoiding it as much as possible, because it's not very semantic. So the div element, also known as the division element, is a general purpose container for other elements. The div element is probably the most commonly used HTML of all. Yeah. So what I said. Okay. Just like any other non-self-closing elements, you can open a div element and close it. Good. Nest your things cats love and things cats hate lists all within a single div element. Try putting your opening div tag above your things cats love, both within one div. Okay, so basically this should be wrapped inside a div. Although maybe you want to use a section tag or a div, it's fine in this case. Good, next one. Declare the doctype of an HTML element. Alright, 1 second. Okay. The challenges so far have covered specific HTML elements and their uses. However, there are a few elements that give overall structure to your page and should be included in every HTML document. At the top of your document, you need to tell the browser which version of HTML your page is using. HTML is an evolving language and is updated regularly. Most major browsers support the latest specification, which is HTML5. However, older web pages may use previous web versions of the language. You tell the browser this information by adding a doctype on your first line, where ... part is the version of HTML. For HTML5, you will use doctype HTML. Well, in reality, maybe you will use something like emmet, and when you will generate your HTML, it will be added by default. So, although it's good for you to know what this does, you will probably not write it your own very much. Okay, the exclamation point, mark, and uppercase doctype is important, especially for the browser. The HTML is not case sensitive. Okay. Next, the rest of the HTML code needs to be wrapped in HTML tags. The opening HTML goes directly below the doctype and closing HTML. Okay, here's an example of the page structure. Good. Yeah, that's good. So basically, we'll tell which type of HTML is on the first line, and then we wrap everything inside the HTML tag. Okay, the challenge. Add a doctype tag for HTML5 to the top of the blank HTML document in the code editor. Under it, add opening and closing HTML tags, which wrap around an H1 element. The heading can include any text. Okay, so, well, we can copy this, because why not? And here inside the the HTML tag, we need to add an H1 tag, and it can say hello world. Alright, so that's pretty much it. We have the doctype, the opening and closing HTML, and inside it the H1. We are also going to have a head and a body, which are important, but I guess they'll tell us more about in the future. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. So now we have head and body. Good. Define the head and body of our HTML document. you can add another level of organization in your HTML document within the HTML tags with the head and body elements. Any markup with information about your page would go inside the head. Then any markup with the content of the page would go inside the body. Exactly. So inside the HTML you have other two tags, which probably going to edit in this exercise. Edit the markups of the head and body. The head element should only include the title, and the body element should only include H1 and B. Okay, so think about the head tag to be everything that's not, it won't show on the page. So you have the title, which will basically be this part here. So the text which appears on the tab. Also you have the meta tags, which will tell the browser. You can add SEO there, so like the description of the website, the author, and all the SEO part, the search engine optimization part. Then it will, there you can add the meta tag for when you want to create a responsive website. And there you're also going to add the link to the CSS. Yeah, that's basically because you want the CSS to load fast, so it will add in the head part, the head tag. Yeah, I think those are the most important tags in the head. There might be a couple more, but these are the general ones. Okay, so let's add a head tag around the title, and let's add a body tag around the H1 and B tag. Body like that. We're indenting it because we want it to be pretty, and we can test it. Oh, look at that, 100%. That's nice. Great, so basically we know HTML now. We are HTML geniuses now, look at that. That's fun. Oh boy, I really thought it would be much longer. But apparently we finished it within an hour, which is pretty nice. Although it was a little easier for me, probably, but it should be easy for you too, even if you're starting out. You just need to focus a little bit to understand the tags. But if you're going to code and you're going to use the tags, it will get easier and easier because all the tags are pretty semantic. So if you want a paragraph, so it's text on your website, it's obvious that you want to use the p tag. If you want a list with something, then you're going to use one of the two, unordinated list and ordinated list, depending if you want it to be bullets in the front or if you want it to be numbers. If you want a form, a button and all that, there are specific tags for that. Okay, Up Club, nice, welcome. Alright, so in the chat, now if you have questions, let me know so I can answer them, and it could be like the second part of this episode, I think. For those of you who want to see the basic CSS, that will come up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow my morning, at 10 AM UTC +2. And for those of you who are watching in the future, the recording of this live stream, the next episode should be live already, probably, depending on when you're watching it. Okay. Yeah, so if any of you have any questions related to HTML, we can cover now. If not, then that's it. Pretty much in an hour we completed and we learned HTML. HTML. So basically, the web pages are built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, mostly the bare bones of the websites. The HTML is the most simple of all of them. Okay, so we have a question. What's the difference between name and ID attributes in an input tag? Alright, yeah, that's a good question. So, I always wondered that too. But basically, with the name, you can specify, for example, if we have the radio box, the radio buttons, or how they call them, the checkboxes, you can see that with the name, you can give them the group name. So all of the radio buttons and checkboxes you want to be in the same group, you give them the same name. And then the ID is something unique. If you're going to use an ID on an element on a page, you won't use it on any other elements. So that has to be unique. So for example, if you're thinking about having 3 checkboxes, all of them will have the same name because they're in the same group, and then they'll have different IDs. So yeah, that's pretty much the difference between. Yes, with ID you can style, says Wizzy. I recommend that you use classes to style. I usually use ID to target the tags in JavaScript. So basically, if you have a button on a page which you want to do something specific, you edit an ID and you can add an event listener in JavaScript targeting that ID. Yeah, that's a topic for a future episode of the series, but that's what I use the ID for. And then you can use classes to style the tags. Usually you won't, although you can style an ID in CSS, I usually recommend you use classes. Okay. I watch Kevin Powell's lecture. He uses classes all the time. Exactly. I use classes all the time myself. So classes for CSS, IDs for JavaScript. That's not really a rule. I mean, you can use IDs in CSS. That's I don't know, maybe a nice to have, like something. So it's easier if we follow this. As I said, it's not necessarily a rule, but yeah, a nice to have or do or whatever. Right. If any of you have any questions. If not, we're going to stop here and we're going to continue tomorrow with the CSS. So basically, we're going to take the HTML and we're going to apply some nice styling on top of it to make it beautiful. Alright, thank you all for joining. I hope you find this useful. And I see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.